is up? Oh, man. Why is it doing this? Oh, boy. Hang on. Okay, hopefully that fixes it. Hello? Okay. Oh, wonderful. Amazing. Incredible. Hello, everybody, and welcome on into another stream, another show. What is up? What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, January 8th. Can you believe it? This first month of the year is almost a third of the way through. Pretty crazy stuff. And we have a lot to get into today. Look, this is, in my opinion, a major story. Very crazy. In fact, I wonder, did Jeff Snyder even know what he was stepping in when he reported this? Did he have any idea? Because, oh man, we're going to get into it. And I think the thing that's kind of wild is Jeff's story is being contradicted by another insider, My Time to Shine. And I want to explain both stories. I want to explain the position that both people have. I want to explain how this could make sense. I want to get into it with you guys. Talk about my feelings. Talk about the feelings of many people within the fandom. Many of you guys know we have been incredibly supportive of the Recast T'Challa movement. I did a podcast episode with E-Man. I had E-Man on several streams to talk about this movement, to sort of push it out there. And I've tried to explain what it is about to you guys. Because I think the thing that's difficult about the situation is Chad, very special human being, did an incredible thing as a performer, but also just as a human being during his time with the character. And I think from the outside looking in, many people think that Marvel Studios actually did the responsible thing by not recasting. And I can totally understand. And by the way, if you're one of those people that still feels that way, that's fine. Like, it's valid. But I think that people extend their own personal beliefs in the situation to having a moral high ground. Everybody thinks they're Kenobi, and you don't. And you need to listen to what other people have to say. Frankly, people within the Black community and people outside of it. There are many different fans, many different people that feel differently about this situation. I'd like to believe that Marvel Studios is at least aware of how big of a deal this is, why it matters so much, etc., etc. But as we will get into, the studios are going to studio, and if you're Marvel Studios and you have set certain things up, mainly the child, Prince T'Challa, it's kind of hard to imagine that they would course correct from that as hard as this report from Jeff is maybe suggesting. So a lot to get into, man. A lot to get into, and I think it's going to be cool. There's a couple other stories, too. Some script updates coming from Daniel RPK. More stuff about Spider-Man 4 and some stuff about the Doomsday script, which is interesting. So we're going to get into all of that today. The main focus, though, will be on this big scoop from Jeff Snyder that T'Challa is being recast. Okay, now I got to sneeze. Anyway, how's everybody doing, man? How's the week going for you guys? Guru616, thank you for subscribing on Prime over on Twitch for 4 months. Appreciate you. W News, your wish came true. Well, actually, I'm not sure about that. I am not sure about that. Because my wish is for a true recast and for the character of T'Challa, as played by Chadwick Boseman, to be recast and reintroduced into the MCU. And as we're going to get into, I'm not exactly sure that that's what's happening. You know, I was initially really thinking that that's what it was, and I was very positive on it. My Time to Shine Hello said that that's not what's happening. I talked to her a little bit today about it. So we'll get into it. We'll get into it. We will get into it. That's for sure. That's for sure. We're going to get into it. We're going to get deep. We're going to dive deep on this whole subject today. Also, I want to say too, and you know, we'll get into the news and the show in just a little bit here. I kind of want to just warm up, see what you guys have going on. You know, answer any little questions and things, thoughts, comments, concerns that you have. What the hell's going on with my hair over there? I got to go get my hair cut at some point. And unfortunately, I kind of have some bad news. Some bad news, okay? I will not be able to do the Nerd Vengers stream tonight. I know! I'm sorry. Okay? There's a lot going on. We're not acclimated perfectly. You know, baby's first week of life. I have a meeting today that I didn't know about. I didn't get a video out yesterday or today, so I have to focus on that. So no Nerd Vengers, no members stream tonight. But we will have one next week. If all goes well, we should be a little bit back to regular, a little bit more settled into the new schedule, and we should have a Nerd Vengers stream next week, but not tonight. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Zachary, welcome to the Nerd Vengers, man. Appreciate you. What the hell, man? Brother, you're not even a member, you know? So I have no idea what you're even talking about, you know? One hair at a time. Yeah, it seems like that's what happens with my haircuts. It seems like that. It's not Thursday, though. I don't know what that means. If next week even comes. Yeah, I think it will. Are you guys getting a feeling that next week won't come? Am I missing something? Bro gets a haircut twice a week. Salad still looks the same. You never even seen my salad. Unless you're subscribed to the OnlyFans, you know? So first of all, shut your mouth. Yeah, I think that's true, Nick. I think that's a good point. Nick says, Chadwick was and is beloved by myself for sure, so understandable, but T'Challa is a very important character, and the Black Panther has always been a personal favorite Avenger. Yeah, 100%. You were just yelling at us calling you a part-time streamer. That's not true. It's a new year and it's a new me. I don't yell at my own chat or my own community, you know? I'm like the super zen, constantly positive, like very loving, you know, no toxicity, like for instance, just to give you an example of how like peaceful and non-toxic I am. I didn't even put it into my notes today to bring up that the Nielsen numbers came in for Skeleton Kids and that it didn't chart in week 1 as I predicted, and that it's not performing well, and I don't know that Star Wars will be able to justify another $136 million spent on a show that can't even chart in its first week. I didn't even have in my notes today about how I didn't watch Skeleton Kids last night, and that makes me 3 episodes behind. That every new episode of Skeleton Kids just marks another episode that I am behind. Do you see what I mean? Like, I didn't even bring any of that stuff up today because it's a new year, it's a new me, and we're positive up in here. You know what I mean? We're trying to be positive. We're trying to talk about stuff that we love, stuff that's good. So why would I, you know, get bogged down in crapping all over a kid's Star Wars show that some of you guys seem to like? You see what I mean? You see how we do it over here? Aaliyah says, I believe Snyder verse Shine, and Snyder indicated it's via the multiverse. If it turns out Shine is correct, though, Russo's and Coogler will make it work. Yeah, well, you know, I want to get into the full details here. I think on the surface level, sure. Like, you know, That's kind of interesting. Who would I believe over the other? I suppose I would believe Jeff over Shine as well. But I will say, I mean, Shine has been very, very correct about many a thing. And Shine will often get information way, way early. I think sometimes she literally leaks stuff to me because she can't say it herself because it's like too early and they'd be able to track her down or something. But a lot of stuff she tells me like 6-7 months later, I'm like, damn, she was right. That's crazy. So it's difficult. They're both good. But look, we'll get into it. I have it written in my notes, you know? We're going to get into it. Matt Spiro says, no stream tonight. I'm going to effing cry. Don't cry. You know, especially don't cry in front of women. Crying in front of women is like bleeding in front of sharks. Don't do it. But if you have to cry, you know, go into a dark room somewhere, let it out a little bit, and then man the fuck up, brother. It's a new year. It's a new me. We're going to be fine. We'll be back at it next week. Zach says, I almost crashed my car when you said no stream. Hey, man. Keep your eye on the road. Are you sure you didn't almost crash when you typed this into chat as you're driving after you almost crashed when I said it? Holy. Dana White says, Shine is right a lot, but engagement farming is too much. Well, I'm just glad you're here, Dana, to keep us in check over here, you know? Congratulations on joining the board of Meta. Yeah. Did I miss your super? My bad, brother. Let me take a peek. Let me take a peek at what you said here. Looks like I missed a couple. Cantina Talks, what's up? Says, what's good? Appreciate you. Zach gifted a membership. Appreciate you. Rossi with a sticker that says, nope. I don't know what that's about. Kalen J, appreciate you. Says, what if Josh Brolin is Batman of the DCU? I love Josh Brolin. He's too short for Batman. You know what I mean? I hate to do this. It feels like I'm coming after short people a lot lately. I'm not trying to come out. It's, you know, it's not your fault. But no, you can't have a short Batman. I'm sorry. Kendall says, we are so fucking back. Any chance they add T'Challa to the FF post-credit scene? The curse has been lifted. Oh, man. Joshua, I'm so sorry. I didn't check out any Banjo. I did accept your message, though. I did find your message in the DMs, and I was like, okay, I'll check this out later. Kendall, love you, brother. I hope we're back. My initial reaction was much closer to the way you're reacting right now. And then after I talked to this my time to shine, or more like my time to crap all over my hopes and goddamn dreams, my attitude changed a little bit. So we'll talk about it. I'm not sure what to believe. I'm not sure who to believe, but we will get into it. Yeah, thanks for the Banjo links, brother. Elliot H says, Star Wars didn't chart. In other news, fire is hot. That is true. And speaking of that, my heart goes out to people in Los Angeles. Seems pretty crazy. I don't know exactly what's going on with the fire. Did y'all run out of water? Like, for real? Like, what the fuck's going on? It seems terrifying. So I hope everybody's safe. I hope people are getting supported and taken care of. I did not look closely into it. I don't know who to blame. I'm gonna blame Canada. But that's not an informed opinion. You know what I mean? I'm just going off vibes. Fuck Canada, you know? So, in all seriousness, I hope everybody's okay over there. That seems like some pretty wild stuff. Thoughts and prayers to people in Los Angeles. Rossi says with a 5 spot, can you let us know what books or pods you've read on positivity and Zen? The way we can avoid them so we can do a better job of being those things. Oh, man. Zen is such an interesting thing, you know? This is probably a topic more for a Diamond Lounge. But, you know, people believe that Zen is this idea of, like, just being, like, totally at peace all the time and just, like, chilling, like, I don't know, some movie they saw or something like that. And that's not really what Zen is. But the thing about Zen is, like, it's kind of like Fight Club. It's hard to talk about. A lot of people will tell you that trying to explain what Zen is like trying to put legs on a snake. Like, it doesn't really make sense. So, I will not do that. Mr. Falcon says, hope Athena is doing well. What's your thoughts on a Legends of Drizzt cinematic universe? I mean, what? Are you familiar with the character, of course? Yeah, I mean, Drizzt is awesome. I have no idea what you're talking about with regards to a Drizzt cinematic universe. Are you talking about, like, doing a universe with all the R.A. Salvatore books and stuff like that? Because, I mean, that could be cool. That could be cool. I love Dungeons and Dragons. You know, a lot of you guys clown on me because I predicted the Dungeons and Dragons movie that would make $1 billion. I was wrong, you know, just off a little bit. But it's somewhat of a consultation to me because, dude, that film is awesome. I love that movie. I think it's super watchable, super fun. It encapsulates the fun of D&D. And a lot of people have given it a lot of love over the time that it has come out. So I think there's a lot of positivity towards that film. And I think you might even get more of those movies, which I think would be sick. I have no idea about this Drizzt cinematic universe. Is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? And also, Athena's doing great, man. She's above her birth weight already. She's eating way more than she should be as far as, like, for her size and her stomach, which we think is just her. She's growing a lot, you know? So she's doing great. She's doing great. She had a little bit of a tough night last night as far as sleep, but we're all good. Macman says, is it true? Did they recast T'Challa? We're going to get into it in just a bit here, man. It's there's a lot to say about the story. There's conflicting reports. And, you know, I have my own opinion. There's a lot to get into. So we're going to get into it in just a second. Cool Bear says, I'm 5 weeks behind on Cringe Kids, and I feel like I haven't missed anything. But I managed to get tickets to the inauguration. What? Inauguration? What are you talking about, brother? What is going on here? I feel like I'm on a different planet. Is there something wrong with chat? Is there something wrong with chat? Hail Wizard, thank you for 10 months over on Twitch, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, Johnny, isn't that movie great, dude? I love that movie. It's one of those films that, like, if you don't know what you want to watch and you just want to have a good time, that movie's perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, politics. Sure. I forgot people still care about that stuff. Good for you. Watch D&D again this weekend. Oh no, yeah, I saw it. Yes. Well, let's ban Cool Bear because we have a strict no politics rule here. And also, I'm just feeling frisky. I'm gonna time him out for like a week, and we'll see how he feels about it. There you go, bud. Timed out. Joshua says, I get it, busy dad. I'll keep hounding you till you accept banjo as your new passion. Awesome. Let me know. I think the banjo will be fantastic. I can't wait for the banjo to wash over me. It's gonna be good stuff. Okay, let's get into the news, man. Let us get into the news. Oh man, this one is this one's gonna be very, very interesting, I think. Okay. So, T'Challa recast. What? We never thought it would happen. So let's get into this. Let's break this down. I don't think I can show you or read exactly everything that's in Jeff Snyder's newsletter. I will read the pertinent bits here. Jeff had a scoop last night that Marvel Studios intends to recast the character of T'Challa. This would be 5 years after the passing of Chadwick Boseman, which is crazy. It's kind of wild to understand that it's been 5 years. Okay. So here's the deal. According to Jeff, how do I say this? Because I don't want to read exactly from it, okay? But what Jeff is reporting is that Robert Downey Jr. coming back, not as Iron Man, but as Doctor Doom, has sort of opened the door for T'Challa to be recast via the magic of the multiverse. Jeff goes on to say that an A-list actor was actually offered the role last fall. That would be 2024. This was a couple of months after Downey's big reveal at Comic-Con. They turned it down. And this is kind of key. They said, he reports, they turned it down not wanting to jeopardize their career momentum by stepping into Boseman's gigantic shoes, which may be too big to fill even for Hollywood's most talented black actors. We're going to come back to that because that's kind of interesting. You could speculate on who that is. Rising talent. Interesting. Jeff goes on to say somebody will say yes and pay tribute to Boseman. He says it's unclear whether T'Challa will appear in Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars, but I think it's fair to assume that whoever is cast will reprise their role in Black Panther 3. Also think it's fair to assume that it will be Coogler who helps Marvel boss Kevin Feige recast the role of T'Challa rather than, say, the Russo brothers who are directing the 2 Avengers sequels. I'm sure everything will be handled with the utmost care and caution and consultation with Boseman's family. But based on what I'm hearing from agency sources, Marvel is on the hunt for a new T'Challa. A representative from Marvel did not immediately respond to requests. Okay, so that's the report from Jeff Snyder. Now, my initial reaction to that, and maybe you saw this on Twitter yesterday, I was psyched, man. I'm hyped up. I mean, this is something I've been asking for a long, long time. T'Challa is one of the coolest characters in Marvel Comics. He's one of the oldest black superheroes, one of the oldest African heroes that was put on a big platform. And the character just plays such a big role in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers, New Avengers, and leading into Secret Wars. The character has such rich history with people like Doctor Doom, with people like Reed Richards. So it's for those reasons, and just for the whole idea of Secret Wars being the celebration of Marvel and everything Marvel, it would have really felt hollow without T'Challa, in my opinion, because he is such an important part of what makes that whole thing work, and a character that was invented a long, long time ago by the guy, the GOAT, and a character that has resonated obviously with a lot of fans. Black Panther, as many like to point out, the first movie, cultural phenomenon, right? There's not really an origin movie or like a first movie in a franchise that has made that kind of money, especially for Marvel Studios. You could technically say Captain Marvel because it got close to that. I think Black Panther does like 1.3, 1.4. Captain Marvel right around $1 billion. You could credit some of that to the Avengers movies and the movie being wedged in between them. But regardless, the Black Panther character, super big deal. The Black Panther franchise, super big deal. Now, obviously, Chad passing, tragic, crazy. It hit me really emotionally. I was really affected by Chad's death. Celebrity deaths are kind of an interesting thing for some people. None of them really do much for them. For me, it kind of depends on the celebrity. Do I have an attachment to them, et cetera, et cetera. I think the fact that Chad carried his burden and his fight with cancer so silently and was doing all of these things while fighting that battle privately just sort of really affected me. It really affected me. It felt like, wow, this dude's like a real life hero, okay? And in reaction to that, the studios put in a really weird spot. Their decision ultimately was to not recast the character and to try to pay respect to the character and the actor by having him actually die in the film itself. So you sort of double down on the real life tragedy, put it into the real film, and for many people, they just think of that as completely understandable and they get it and they think that's probably the right move. Now, here's just reality. The reality is facts are facts. Not everybody felt that way. The second Black Panther movie underperforms. It underperforms. It still did well. I'm not saying it bombed. I'm not saying it lost money, but it underperforms from what the expectations were and from what you would think a movie like that would do after its, first movie made so much. In some ways, you would think, if you look at The Dark Knight, when Heath Ledger passed, in some ways, like, it feels kind of messed up to say, but the death of a big star of a movie can actually create even more interest for the film. It's a little bit morbid, but that's just the reality of the situation. I bring that up because we thought that would maybe happen with Wakanda Forever. So it's underperforming is kind of even crazier considering that fact. So I think multiple things are going on. Number one, the fan base themselves, and particularly a lot of like young black fans, saw what Marvel did and just rejected it. Just said, nope, this is not what you do. You wouldn't do this to Superman. You wouldn't do this to James Bond. Why are you doubling down on the tragedy? Why is this thing filled with so much trauma? And then on top of that, like Coogler, you know, he kills the mom. It's like, holy, like there's just a lot of trauma there. I just, to take a step back, I can't even watch Wakanda Forever. Like, I've seen it once. I'm probably never going to watch it again. I personally can't do it because it's just like, it feels like there's so much trauma and tragedy in there. On top of that, I don't love the Girls Club. So it becomes a Girls Club movie. And Shuri, and this gets a little controversial. I'm honestly not trying to admonish anybody, embarrass anybody, or try to, pick a side per se. But, one of the things E-Man told me directly when we did the podcast together, which you can still find, it's on Spotify, was that he was directly told from people at Marvel Studios or sources close to people at Marvel Studios that one of the reasons they decided not to recast is because they didn't want a male king of Wakanda. They wanted a female queen of Wakanda. That was like an agenda thing. That's what they wanted. We've talked a lot about how Disney, I think the best way to explain this, the one that's like the least charged, is the idea that Marvel and Star Wars are traditionally male-dominated brands. My channels are like 3%, 4% female. Rob from Comics Explained, maybe the biggest comic book channel on the planet, 3% female, right? So these spaces are male-dominated, and yet Disney as a brand actually is very, it has high female numbers. So females spend a lot of money on Disney merchandise, Disney princess stuff, going to Disney movies, going to Disney parks. Disney itself is a brand that has far more female appeal just from a marketing perspective than Marvel or Star Wars. So one of the things we've seen over the past 5 years was an attempt from Disney to sort of take male-dominated brands and make them more female-centric to get some of the overall Disney audience to spend more money and engage more with these male-dominated franchises. So that idea also kind of like spins in with the idea of doubling down on the loss of Chad in the movie, a lot of trauma and all these sort of things. So at the end of the day, I think I could objectively say that what happened with the audience because of Marvel's decisions regarding the Black Panther character and those movies and that franchise was hit with a mixed reaction from the fans. And I think it's also fair to say that the second movie underperforms. There are maybe multiple reasons why, but it should also kind of just be looked at as like, yeah, they didn't love that shit. Maybe we should try to figure out why. Okay? So, for me, hearing that T'Challa was going to be recast, which, by the way, this is something else that's kind of wild about this. My Time to Shine Hello did report over a year ago that there was going to be a new T'Challa after the reboot. Okay? And so even at that time, I was sort of speculating, oh, wow, it looks like Marvel might have learned their lesson here. It looks like they might be listening to the fans, which, by the way, they do. Feige has publicly talked about the decision to change the Ancient One to a Celtic woman. And he has admitted that although that move was made with the best of intentions, it ultimately still felt insensitive and wrong. So you can do stuff with the best intention. You can do stuff trying to like figure out how to message correctly, all these things. You might have the right thing in your heart. It still doesn't mean that you're actually doing the right thing. it still doesn't mean that you're doing what most of the audience would prefer. But if you're a good studio, right? If you're a company, a game development, a game publisher, if you're somebody that it has a product that is meant for vast amounts of people, one thing you can do is listen and try to understand where your fans, where your audience is at. And so initially, when I see this report from Jeff Snyder, I'm like, yo, they figured it out. And oh my God, it's a massive W. Okay. Now, you go back into that report, and it's also obvious there's a lot of misinformation out there. Jeff is actually saying that it's unclear whether T'Challa will appear in Doomsday or Secret Wars. But he says he thinks that whoever is cast as the character will reprise the role in Black Panther 3. Which, of course, there was something, with Denzel Washington where he had a role being written for him as well. The problem is the telephone game. Jeff has his stuff behind a paywall. Totally respect it. Understand the game. There's aggregators out there that, maybe they're trying to get access to this and put out information as quick as possible. Even myself, I kind of, when I read through it, had initially thought he was saying that he will be back for Doomsday and Secret Wars, but that's not what he's saying. Now, all of that takes us to what My Time to Shine Hello said yesterday, and I talked to her a little bit about this morning. Shine is saying that it is not a new T'Challa. It is instead an aged-up version of the child T'Challa from the multiverse that will become the T'Challa. Okay, so let's. Are you still with me? Do you understand what's going on? So let me just try to explain the conflicting reports here, what could be going on, and then ultimately I want to talk about why I think this is like a teaching moment. Okay, so Jeff Snyder, incredible sources, highly reliable. Here's the problem: Jeff is not a nerd. Okay, it's obvious, and if you watch him on some of the podcasts, right, he's allergic to it. Roka's trying to explain this, that, second, and third, multiverse, this variant, that, and he just shuts down. I totally get it. He's not a nerd. The problem is, if you're not a nerd, you're gonna miss stuff. Stuff's gonna get lost in translation when you're hearing stuff from sources, right? And this has happened to Jeff. It's happened to other people. A lot of these people are not big comic book fans or nerds. So they hear something and they report it with the context of maybe some other stuff they've heard, and their conclusions often not really accurate because they're missing whole entire pieces of it. So when Jeff says they're going to recast via the multiverse and he's talking about T'Challa, I mean, the qualifying question automatically should have been, are we talking about T'Challa the second? Are we talking about the child? Are we talking about Prince T'Challa? Because here's the problem, right? Jeff doesn't have a flawless record. Neither does My Time to Shine Hello. I think they both have really accurate information. I think that Jeff isn't a nerd, so he gets some stuff lost in translation. I think Shine is just a wild card and sometimes a troll. So it's kind of hard to filter through some of that stuff. But ultimately, they're both really, really reliable. But I would have to say, I do think Shine is a little bit more plugged in on what all of this stuff actually means. It's also hard to imagine Marvel Studios pivoting so hard from Wakanda Forever that they would have a new T'Challa and the child and Shuri and all this. How do you make sense of that from the second film into the third film? Right? So the more I thought about it, man, the more I was like, damn, bro, they're probably going to do the kid. For real. They're probably going to do the kid. But here's the thing. To sort of play devil's advocate to even that conclusion, man, none of this shit makes sense. None of this shit makes sense, bro. How are you going to age a character up, grab a variant from the multiverse? It's technically T'Challa, but you're gonna somehow try to differentiate that from the T'Challa of Earth 616 just to respect that version. And also, there's no other actual T'Challas out there in the multiverse. It doesn't make any sense. What are you telling me? That if we go out into the multiverse, the only T'Challas that are available to us are the ones that are the child of T'Challa? You're telling me, did our T'Challa, the real T'Challa, did he die in every fucking universe? Is he like the Darkhold? And it's all just gone? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. The other thing that doesn't make any sense is, why is the actor refusing the role because they're not wanting to step in Chadwick Boseman's shoes? You know what I'm saying? How does it make sense that the actor themselves would say no because they don't want to step into Chadwick's shoes? Maybe it's because, regardless of what Marvel says, this is a recast of T'Challa. So it almost feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and they're doing this weird, like, in, out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of a thing, where they want an aged up male T'Challa, and yet they also want to keep the T'Challa that Chad played as a sacred thing that would never be replaced. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. It's confusing to even me, and I'm one of the sweatiest nerds on the planet. I think if they're actually going the route of the child, man, for me personally, that ain't it. Like, it ain't it for me personally. You know what I mean? Because from the logic within the universe, it doesn't make any sense. How, like, you'd have to do some serious lifting in the story to get me to understand why a variant of a child of T'Challa has come into Secret Wars, Doomsday, Black Panther 3, whatever, instead of just like regular T'Challa. You're already losing me. On top of that, I think if the actor themselves doesn't want to play the role because they realize that regardless of how Marvel is spinning it, it is essentially a recast, it is a replacement, and the little footnote thing or the editor's note at the bottom of the page is not going to deter people from just seeing it as a recast, well, then why are you even doing it? You know what I mean? Like, you should be getting some feedback from this process that shows you that this is not a good way to go. So that, I guess, is the story as far as how I can best explain it. What Jeff is saying, what Shine is saying, the precedence of Wakanda Forever, and how that all fits together, right? So, like, that is as best and as accurate as I can say it. That is what's going on. Now, I think there's just so much that I want to get into with regards to this situation. I mean, first of all, like, let's talk about Doomsday Secret Wars. Let's talk about Coogler. Let's talk about the Russo brothers. I don't think the Russos cast T'Challa. I don't know that for sure, but I don't think so. And yet he does appear first in a Russo brothers movie, and I gotta be honest with you, he's better in that movie. I mean, T'Challa is literally more interesting, better, more dynamic, and fights better in Civil War than he does in Black Panther. Like, I'm basically saying, without saying it, bro, why do we trust Coogler so much? You know what I mean? Like, real talk. Like, I think he's an incredible director. I think he's got vision. And he's obviously done some incredible things. I mean, the first Black Panther movies, wow, like, holy shit. I don't like the decisions that he made with T'Challa. I don't like the decisions he made in Wakanda Forever. I don't. Killing his mom? What? That's crazy. By the way, Angela Bassett herself did not agree with that decision. Okay? So this whole idea, like, man, this is one of those tricky ones because, like, I don't want to spin out and say some crazy shit. I think some of you can maybe feel where I'm coming from. I think the thing that is most frustrating to me about this situation is people from the outside in of all kinds of different communities, whether it's the black community, whether it's the nerdy community, whether it's comic book fans, people from outside of the community coming in and trying to assert their beliefs as like the law, or trying to present their perspective as a perspective that is unilaterally accepted by this group, that group, etc. Don't love it. And I see a lot of that going on just in the report itself from Jeff and in the conversation that is being had about it. I know it's a sensitive issue. I know it's crazy. But for me, I see a lot of ignorance. And I just want to ask, like, why should it be cooler? Why can't it be the Russos? I think the Russos literally did better. I also don't understand why it can't be for Avengers and for Secret Wars, okay? So, like, this is another aspect of this. Secret Wars is meant to be a celebration of all things Marvel. That's the whole idea. The very first Secret Wars was just a wild Jim Shooter idea. Villains, heroes, the best of the best. Put them together, smash the toys together, and let's sell some books. That concept gets elevated in what Jonathan Hickman did. Hickman's entire Avengers run begins with an incursion in Wakanda. It takes place right after Avengers vs. X-Men, where T'Challa has been considered the king of the dead because Namor killed so many people in Wakanda that they called T'Challa the king of the dead, that he allowed to die in that war. And so he's banished to the necropolis. He's technically Black Panther still, but not the king. Right? And T'Challa also, for the first time ever, joins the Illuminati, something that he refused to when he was first invited when they were all forming, I believe, after the Kree Skrull War, which this was like Reed's idea and everything like that, right? So if you read that story, which many of us say is the greatest comic book story ever told, those 3 to 4 years of comics is the greatest stretch of modern comic book storytelling, maybe comic book storytelling in general. And if you have read those stories and you know where it goes and you know what time runs out is and you know how we get to Battle World with Doom and all sorts of this other stuff, then you know how important T'Challa was to that entire thing. To that entire thing. And so I think when I first heard this story, right? When I first heard this thing, and, you know, you have Jeff saying like, oh, they're going to recast T'Challa. This is great. Which, by the way, on a side note, can I say one thing? I really hope that both Jeff and Shine really did their due diligence here, because they're both on, they have conflicting reports about something that a great many people care deeply about. And so whoever's wrong here is going to get some blowback. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to get some blowback. And I think probably rightfully so. So I'd go double check. I'd go talk to a couple more people. I'd be pretty clear with what you're reporting about this exact issue. But going back to the comic thing, right? Can you imagine Secret Wars, the multiverse, and all this stuff happening without T'Challa? What's the excuse, man? This is crazy. Like, what are you gonna say? That all the variants are destroyed? Like, what are we doing here? So from that perspective and like getting into Secret Wars, which again is supposed to be this just celebration of all the fun stuff. I mean, brother, I'd put 2 or 3 T'Challas in there. Find different prolific black actors and give me like multiple T'Challas. Right? Like that is the flavor that I think would be appropriate as far as the celebration of this thing. So I think the comic book story itself, and if you're just a big fan of Marvel, I think you need T'Challa back. And I'll say it like this, like, if they go this route with the kid, I mean, ultimately, I think it's still preferable to having Shuri be the lead, right? I think it's preferable to having the kid do it. Like, imagine if we'd have to put up with young T'Challa hanging out with, like, you know, the champions. And that's how they honor Chad going into these next two Avengers movies. Like, that sucks. I don't like that. So I prefer an aged up variant of the son that's just going to be called T'Challa. I mean, again, we're sort of like mincing words here, right? Like, it's technically like not kid, like an adult black man named T'Challa that will be Black Panther, right? So similar that the actor seems to have an issue with it, even if it was explained to the actor that they're not actually replacing Chadwick Boseman. It's still a thing. I do prefer that to Shuri and to having the young kid be a part of it. So I still think it's a W. I'm not trying to be so grumpy about this that I'm going to reject what is still an improvement. And either way, this does feel like Marvel's like trying. I'm critical of the thought process. I'm critical of what their goals actually are. But I want to at least acknowledge and give credit that, like, they seem to be reading the room. They seem to understand what the issue is, and they seem to want to try to correct it. This is just their way of doing that. So it sort of falls to us, it falls to you to decide how you feel about that for yourself, right? But I think, considering this idea that the actor doesn't necessarily want to do it, I think considering that many people, as I said earlier, are just asserting like their ideas, their views on this as like the unilateral truth, I think this is a teaching moment. And I would hope that even just the like higher profile of the recast T'Challa movement, like recently we saw Eric Voss over at New Rockstars kind of come around to this idea to see the recast T'Challa movement a little bit more for what it is, and not just think of it as like a Snyder bro type movement where people are just being toxic for the sake of it, or some minority opinion is being, you know, hyper projected because of social media, whatever. That's great. And it does seem like people are kind of coming around to the idea. I would urge you to go seek out what other people have said about this. There are a lot of black voices that have spoken about this, and you can go check it out. You can go see what people within that community are saying. By the way, you can see what Chad said about this whole situation before he passed, talking about how the character was more important. He said that out of all of the roles, the character is more important than the actor. You can go see what Chad's brother has to say about this whole situation. And Chad's brother says 100% Chad would want the role to be recast. So you can go look at that. You can go look at what nerds are saying about this. People that, because like, look, man, like the thing is, like, I'm obviously not black. Like, you know, maybe you didn't know. I'm a white dude. But I fucking love T'Challa. So I have a different connection to the character. But I love T'Challa. I thought T'Challa was so interesting, so cool in that Jonathan Hickman run. He is such an important part of that. And his morality and his intelligence, juxtaposed against Reed, juxtaposed against Cap. There's one of my favorite moments where Cap has a conversation with T'Challa before going into the Illuminati meeting. And Cap's like, I mean, he's being Steve, right? And he's like, man, these guys, they're going to justify some horrible shit. You know what I'm saying, T'Challa? They're about to do some wild shit, and we can't let them do it. We have to hold on to our morals. We can't let it happen. And T'Challa's basically like, yeah, man, I get you. They go into the meeting. He stands up. Steve's doing his speech, this, that, second, and the third. T'Challa's basically says, sorry, Steve, like, I lied. You're wrong. Your perspective will not be helpful here. And it was like wild. It was a wild moment. The conflict between T'Challa and Namor. I mean, guys, this is a guy that is literally called the King of the Dead because his own people are trying to shame him. He's stripped of being king. And yet he brings Namor, the devil himself, the man that's responsible for all that turmoil, killed all of his people, and responsible for his own personal shame. He breaks bread with him in the necropolis because he understands what's really at stake. And it's not about him. It's bigger than that. That's T'Challa. He's got such interesting characteristics. He's so brilliant. He's a warrior, which makes him slightly different than Reed, right? He's such a unique and important character in that pantheon, and I think he needs to be in the next two Avengers movies. You want to do Marvel right. You want to do Marvel right. You need T'Challa, especially when big things like this are happening. You need him. So you can go see what nerds are saying about it. You go see what black folks are saying about it. You can go see just what fans are saying about it. Become more educated in the different perspectives that are out there. That's my biggest ask in this whole situation. This is big news. I think it's big news in part because it's such a hot button topic. It's an emotional thing for a lot of people. I think the movement itself has been misrepresented, misunderstood. So this ultimately is a teaching moment. And I think the last thing I would say about this is that to any actors out there, again, I would look to your own people, your own community, you know what I mean, to get essentially the nod. But I can tell you from my perspective, like this idea that you would be dishonoring him, that doesn't carry much water for me. Like, I support the movement. I've looked into what Chad said in the past, what his brother has said, what a lot of people within the community have said. I think it's a unfair place that you are putting that person on. Like, you wouldn't do this to Superman. You wouldn't do this to many, many other, white heroes. Why does a tragedy in real life have to eliminate a fictional superhero's ability to exist in a fictional world and serve a purpose that is essentially just inspiration and fun via story? So if you're a person out there, if you're an actor, or maybe somebody, or, just in general, like if your perspective is that doing this would dishonor him, at the very least, you have to understand that is not a unilaterally accepted position. You are not taking the objective moral high ground by making that decision. If that's what's true to your spirit, understood. I understand. But if you're doing it because of the pressure of the stage, of the community, of social media, of your career, of this community, of that community, you at the very least need to understand it is more complicated than that. People view this thing differently. I think it would be incredible to take ownership of that role, to carry the baton that Chad carried in a way that no one else can, provide your own take on it, and do what the character is meant to do, inspire. And kick some ass, man. I love that character. I want to see him kick ass, bro. So that's kind of the other aspect to it. It's a little bit of an emotional thing. I think it's potentially a triggering thing for different people. I can only offer you my perspective as a nerd, as somebody that's been close to people that are within the movement, as somebody that has researched, and as somebody that believes that I 100% believe that Chad would want the role to be recast. And if you ultimately want to do what you think Chad would do, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that is what he would want. So that's kind of the other aspect of the conversation. But look, I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts, a lot of comments, a lot of questions, maybe some anger, maybe some sadness, emotional damage. So let's now open it up to the chat. Let's see what you guys have to think about this. What do you make of this situation? What are your hopes for the situation? Do you have any questions for me? What do you think? Let me try to bring up the bring up the chats here. Not to get political, but Thanos was right. Time him out. I'll get it. Busy dad, keep it. Yeah, appreciate you, man. Miguel says, greetings, friends and family of the tower. Sending love to your family after the edition. Josh, I've picked up reading comics again as Moon Knight is getting love. You pick up Ultimate Wolverine. Is it out? Is it out today? Ooh, I got to add that to the pull list. Oh, I might have screwed up, man. I might have screwed up. I definitely wanted to get that. I would have gotten 5 copies of issue 1 if I could. Did it come out today? Chat, did I screw up? Space Tricks cereal. Oh, dude, here's something. I want to show you this, Space Tricks. Before I even read the rest of your message, I want to show you this. I was doing the clips yesterday, okay? And I saw this. $5 super chat here. What was the mind-eating monsters in secret level 40K thing? Also, give me another Primarch. We're 3 deep and 1 army per demigod when playing. I saw this and I got really disappointed. Not in you. Not at you. At the rest of chat. I can't believe chat's always so quick to point out when I miss a super chat. So I can't believe that they didn't bring that up. We'll get into that in just a second. I kind of want to stick on topic here. So you missed my super chat yesterday. I was wondering what the mind-eating monsters were. Yeah. 2 points out. So stupid. Star Wars made literal pirate show. Didn't use Hondo. Yeah, kind of sucks. Okay. So let's see here. As much as some people hate the idea, Denzel as Black Panther would slap. Yes, there's an age thing, but Denzel is the greatest black actor of all time. Yeah, so on that note, I kind of think if it is the young T'Challa, if they do young T'Challa, Denzel could be traditional T'Challa in the spirit realm, which is kind of a cool full circle thing. Denzel paid for some of Chad's acting school, like a summer classes or something like that. Chadwick got into acting because of Denzel, so there's like a spiritual, connection there. It could feel really good to do that. I still don't love it, but I understand. Damson Idris is a younger Black Panther, would be great casting. Yeah, a lot of people brought him up. I think he would be good from what I've seen. I haven't really seen him in anything, at least not that I can think of. Benjamin says, thoughts on Aaron Pierre as T'Challa? I mean, I like Aaron Pierre. I think he could be T'Challa. I think he's pretty wrapped up in DC land right now. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Demo says, why recast when we've just been introduced to T'Challa Jr.? I understand this question. I think it's a fair question. I think this is probably the reason why it will ultimately end up being the young kid. Why recast, though? I mean, I just went into all sorts of reasons why. I really think you just need T'Challa. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like I've kind of explained that extensively. Oh, ignore my last super chat. He was already playing someone else. Much love. Yeah, appreciate you. Stephen James is my pick. He played Jesse Owens in Race. He worked alongside Chad, and he lost the role of Jon Stewart. Give him the role. Okay, I'll look him up. I mean, I guess this is my question for you guys, right? And we're going to go into more of the super chats and the questions, etc. If it's ultimately a black man named T'Challa, and he is the Black Panther, will that be good enough for you? Like, is that okay? I think for most people it will be, frankly. I still really wish it was not that, but I think that might be a path that does work for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like many of us, because I think there's different levels to this thing. Like some of you guys are so hardcore recast T'Challa that I've seen people say, I won't buy a ticket to the next one unless they recast T'Challa. Right? And I totally understand that. But I think there are people like myself that would much prefer actually recasting T'Challa. But if this is the route they're going to go, I'm not going to complain or be so upset that it's going to stop me from checking the movies out, enjoying it, and rooting for, Black Panther, right? So I get the feeling that even though I don't love this, it could work. People would probably support it. I'm curious as to what you guys think. Shuri is the Black Panther for now. It's fine. She just needs to get in line with Big Pharma. So the thing is, I think Shuri is getting a highly reduced role either way. This move does appear to be a shift, at least from that. I think that some people like Shuri. I mean, I don't dislike Shuri. I dislike a studio saying, no, we don't want a male king. We don't really care about that. We want female. This is actually an opportunity to like prop up female queen of Wakanda thing. That I don't love. I also think Shuri, I mean, I thought she had actually a good performance in Wakanda Forever, but I liked her better in the first Black Panther. And I felt like that's a little bit more accurate to the character of Shuri from the comics. Her trauma and losing her dad and losing her mom and losing her brother and losing all this stuff. And she's just, I don't know, man. Like, I personally can't like connect to the character that much now. I thought the whole love romantic thing with Namor was weird as hell. Yeah. So I don't know. And I do think this news, sort of regardless of whether it's like an actual recast T'Challa or it's just the young prince, I think this move indicates that they're going away from Shuri. Ultimately, that is a good move, not because of Shuri, but because what it means is the focus is back to a black male Black Panther. Like, does that make sense? Like, I hope I'm articulating that well. It's okay for fans to want a male Black Panther. Like, doesn't that make, like, that's okay. Like, that's not toxic. It's not toxic to say, yeah, sure, he's cool. Jane Foster, Thor, fine. But, like, I want T'Challa as Black Panther. I want Norrin Rad as the Silver Surfer. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not toxic to want that. And that's, like, unabashedly what I want. That's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, that's okay. And I think a lot of people are on that same page. Positive Perendis says, sounds like they need Deadpool to bring the new T'Challa and have him say, hey, just accept this, LOL. I mean, yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, that would honestly feel a little disrespectful. You could have a little fun with some of that. But I also think if what you're trying to do is so convoluted that only a fourth wall-breaking character can explain it, you've probably fucked up. You know? Kendall says, I've always said that T'Challa after the reboot would be the son of T'Challa. It's their way to honor Chad. Question, why is it so important that he's T'Chaka's son? So I think for me, and I can only really speak for me, I think the reason it's important is because then I can connect that character to all the things I know from comics. And T'Challa in the comics is, like, he's really important. He's really well fleshed out. Tons of great stories with this character for so many different years. And I just really like that guy, right? So it's kind of like if you were to say, Wolverine has a son. His name's Daken, and he's a fucking psychopath. You know what I mean? He's a murdering, crazy psychopath. If you just sold me on, like, if you were to make Daken exactly like his father and then have him replace Logan as the Wolverine, that feels like derivative, lame, uninteresting. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, if it's T'Challa by name, if it's T'Challa by appearance, if it's T'Challa by character, then it's just T'Challa. You know what I mean? This weird, like, oh, but he's technically T'Challa Jr., because that just puts Chad's version of Black Panther on a pedestal that we can protect. It just feels like you're doing all these mental gymnastics. to try to have your cake and eat it too. So like that's why for me it just doesn't work. Now, another thing that I think is kind of crazy about this, and maybe I'm the wrong person to be making this point, right? You know, there's a lot of stuff today that, you know, frankly, like I'm kind of on the outside of some of these conversations, right? But I can still offer up my perspective. But just let's just acknowledge that, like, there's a bearded Polish man, you know, talking to you about this stuff, right? I think it's a little fucked up that they're gonna make this version of T'Challa grow up without his dad. I think that's a little like calling your Captain America 4 movie New World Order and then realizing the implications of that later down the road and then changing the name of that, right? Sometimes we do things and there's a line of logic that makes us think that it's a good idea. And then you take a step back and you're like, oh, but technically that plays right into historical traumas, influence of institutions to keep fathers out of the home, et cetera, right? Again, just my perspective on it. So this whole young T'Challa thing, I don't love it. I don't love the optics, and it doesn't feel, it just feels inauthentic to me. That's ultimately where I stand. Kaylin says, Chad's family wanted them to recast. This is true. They're on record. Vandolph the Black says, if Denzel is the variant of T'Challa and they bring in young T'Challa, I believe that will work. I mean, it's nasty work, but it will work. I tend to agree with you. I think it will work for most people. You know what I mean? I just hope that a lot of these other ideas and thoughts and the conversation itself doesn't just get sidelined and put into the bin of toxicity. Like, let people tell you why they don't like it. And I'd like to request that the studio listens. You know what I mean? That's it. Ibse says, Josh, you're so toxic. I know. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. New year, new me. Reverse Flash says, make Killmonger from another universe, please. I hate that. I mean, Killmonger is the antithesis to T'Challa. Killmonger is the guy that took the wrong route. Killmonger is he's a bad guy. You know what I mean? So I don't love that either, man. I don't think that's the way to do it. Javier Mendez, appreciate you. Thoughts on Marvel using Lucasfilm CW animation? I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you elaborate on that? Ibsy says, imagine if they recast T'Challa in Doomsday only for then to get brutally murdered by Doctor Doom in the opening scene. And that sets up Doctor Doom. Can you imagine? I'm not trying to be a dick here. That feels like some Ryan Coogler writing. The Exodus says, Chadwick's wishes should supersede everyone else's. I agree with you. It's just like hard because I don't think, unless they know and they're keeping it a secret, I don't think they ever got directly exactly what he would have wanted. Nerds Engage, I appreciate the gifted memberships. Thank you. Kaylin J says, I think Black Panther 3 will gross less money if they don't recast. Yeah, it's hard to say. I kind of agree with Vandolph where, like, a lot of us will look at this and be like, that's kind of sus. Don't love this, that, second, and the third. But I think it will probably work for a lot of normies. And maybe that's the ticket, you know, maybe that's good enough. And again, it's preferable to me to having Shuri raise a kid T'Challa and having to watch like childhood T'Challa hang out with like the young Avengers and shit. Like I'm not interested. So if they're using the multiverse to age up T'Challa so that he is ipso facto a black male T'Challa, that is preferable to Shuri raising an fatherless young T'Challa Jr. Vagabond of Light with a 5 spot says, if you're having cake and eating it too, you should be doing some sort of gymnastics. Yeah, fair. And that also works figuratively and literally. Wow. Okay, now let's talk about Warhammer. You guys are going to be real mad But Space Trick Serial TM asked me about Warhammer today, and he asked me about Warhammer yesterday, and you guys tried to not remind me about it and hide it. So here we go. Here we go. So, yesterday you asked me about the mind-eating monsters in secret level Warhammer 40k thing. Technically, these are unique demons to the show. To me, they look like Tzich demons, and they look like they're close to like the Keeper of Secrets. But I don't actually think that's what they were, at least the big one that was doing the mind tricks to everybody. And then your other question is, let's talk about a Primarch. So we're 3 deep. Let me talk about another Primarch here. I want to talk about Lorgar. Lorgar is a really interesting Primarch. And he's in charge of what are called the Word Bearers. Lorgar literally writes the Bible that would eventually be used by what is known as the Ecclesiarch, or the Ecclesiarchy, which was like the segment of the Imperium that demanded that the Emperor be worshipped as a god. Okay. So, something kind of unique to Warhammer is the Emperor, he has this thing called, I think it's called the Imperial Decree. And it's to say that there are no gods. And so he takes humanity in like a science-based, rationale-based place. No gods, no worshiping. Now, we find out that he's doing that partially because any worship that happens from humans technically impacts the warp, and it was a way to keep humanity safe from the chaos gods. Okay? Lorgar is a man of faith. Lorgar believes that his father is God. During the Great Crusade, all of these Primarchs and their legions of Space Marines were supposed to go out there and conquer planets. Most of them just go out there and war, crusade, and basically it's something like, hey, you're either going to join up with the Imperium or you're going to die. Lorgar actually goes to these planets and he slowly converts them. He converts them via religion. And this whole time, like, there's so many, like, the Lionel Johnson, he's found, like, almost last. And within a year, he's conquered more planets than all of the other Primarchs combined. So, like, the Lion's out there getting it done. Lorgar taking his sweet-ass time. He's going to planet and being like, have you heard of the good word of my father, the God Emperor of mankind? And he's talking about how he's a god. Okay? Now, when the Emperor finds out about this, he takes Lorgar in front of all of his soldiers on the home planet in their biggest, most religious city, and he makes him stand there and watch as the Ultramarines decimate his own planet. I think he then goes on to psychically torture his son, too, in front of everybody. So think about this. This is crazy. So this guy worships his father as a god. He cares about humans. He cares about getting these planets to actually embrace the Emperor as a god. He's not slaughtering them. He's not killing them. He's trying to be nice. And his father repays him by humiliating him and destroying their capital city in front of all of their soldiers. Then Lorgar basically decides, we will go seek gods more worthy of our worship. And they go worship the chaos gods. Like 13,000 years later, or maybe it's like 10,000 years later, the Bible that Lorgar and the Word Bearers first wrote becomes the Bible for the Ecclesiarchy. Don't you understand? That's what's crazy about Warhammer. So, there you go. There you go. Oh, my goodness. Here, Comics Things is sharing some DC bullshit. Oh, my God. So, wait a minute. Why do we think that Andy Muschietti saying that Robert Pattinson will not be the DCU Batman is relevant? Like, just out of curiosity, like, why is that a thing? Yeah. Anyway, going back to the T'Challa conversation, I think it's possible, and I'll catch up on some of the chats here. I think it's actually possible that maybe we're getting both. That maybe there's an aged up version of young T'Challa and an older version of T'Challa. And if they're both hanging out like during Secret Wars and the next two Avengers movies, I think that would be incredible. So if they do both, I'm kind of like super down, you know? Okay, so let's see here. Let's get back into some of these chats. Oh, wait, I think I'm caught up here. Dar Boyd says, forget about skin color. Even if Chad didn't want to recast, it doesn't matter. Imagine if DC said, no more Superman because Henry died. Ridiculous. Honoring/dishonoring isn't even in the equation. I understand that perspective, and I think that there's a rational way to look at this and say, that is silly. These are fictional characters. It doesn't make any difference. All of these other things are secondary. Why would you just like allow, like when Christopher Reeves had his accident, it's not like there was never a Superman ever again. I understand that logic. I just would tell you that your perspective is not the perspective of everyone in this conversation. And to others, there are other things at play, and that's valid. It's valid at the very least insofar as this fandom is made up of individuals. Individuals have connections to different communities, groups, and things. And so it does intrinsically matter how those people feel about these different aspects. It's not to say that you're wrong. It's just an incomplete worldview. Reverse Flash says, least can we bring Killmonger back, favorite villain? Yeah, Killmonger's cool. I think he could come back. I think there's even some rumors that he will come back. Janes01 says, new year, new Josh. Doomsday origin movie? Wait, what do you mean? I mean, I think Doomsday will be somewhat of an origin film for RDJ Doctor Doom, yeah. Ooh, Ultimate Wolverine is next week? Okay, sick. Sick. Let's see here. Fearsome Halo says, Josh, while watching Bricky's lore video, Bricky talked about the Emperor's 20 children, but then quickly corrected himself by saying 18 children. What's up with that? Okay. There are 2 Primarchs that are either killed or captured. I believe it is the 11th Primarch and the 18th Primarch, although I could be getting that wrong. It seems like one of them was killed, probably by Lehman Russ. And the other one is probably in the black cells underneath the palace on Terra and being watched over by the Custodes. So there you go. That's what that is. And somebody's like, not Warhammer again. Oh, you better get used to it, mother trucker. We're a Warhammer channel now. How's the Marvel Rivals grind going? Not well. I've been super busy. I haven't been able to play a lot of Rivals this week, actually. It's crazy, man. This like new little human popped up into our world. She needs so much attention, you know. She's constantly eating, constantly pooping. It's crazy. Like, doesn't she know we had like a schedule and stuff? Yeah. Is it Primarch or Primarch? I think it's the second one. Yes. Just simping all day long? I guess. I'm caught up. Wakanda runs through T'Challa and nobody else. I understand. I understand your perspective. So, I will say this. Any updates on nudity? No, I do have to check in with the team this week, though. I'm hoping to be able to do that tonight, actually. But, like, I have another meeting that I didn't even know about. Apparently, I got an email on Monday, and I was supposed to set up a meeting, so I'm like, oh, shit. So, this whole thing that comics things is saying about Pattinson in the Batman thing. So here's my take on it. You know what? Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up, and I'll do a proper breakdown of this, okay? I will do a proper breakdown of this situation. All right? Just for you, comics things. Just for you, bud. Okay, so sort of breaking news, breaking the internet, breaking my balls, breaking chat. Andy Muschietti says Robert Pattinson will not be the DCU Batman. There is a Batman that everyone knows is the Batman that belongs in the new universe. The Batman of Matt Reeves is obvious he's not from the new universe. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so a couple of things about this. If you didn't know of all of the more recent rumors and speculation that is out there, you would take this as the director of the DCU Batman film coming out and clarifying Pattinson is not the Batman of this new universe, okay? Totally understand that. Again, if you are uneducated, if you're not following the rumor mill the way that I do, you would take these comments just to mean that. So why do I not believe these comments? A couple of different reasons. Number one, according to John Roca, the outlaw, Andy Muschietti is not on this film, and he has not been on this film for a long time. It's just not officially out there. Recently, Muschietti made a comment about how Brave and the Bold has been delayed, so he's going to tackle a smaller indie film first. Okay. Beyond that, just think about that. According to Roca, he's not even on the film anymore. So what is he saying when he's talking about this whole comment here? He's probably speaking from the perspective of when he was still on the movie, what the original plan was. And yeah, that's obvious that Pattinson is not that guy. I mean, we were going to do Damian Wayne. You know, Matt Reeves stuff is like just super grounded and gritty, wears hockey pads and his skin sparkles in the sunlight or the moonlight and shit, right? So like, that's just totally different than what Gunn appears to be building in the DCU. But on top of that, are we really going to just ignore all the things we've been talking about over the past couple of months? The fact that 2+ years ago, Adam B. Very put in the Hollywood trades that Gunn wants Pattinson to be the Batman. The fact that Snyder is saying that Pattinson wants to be the DCU Batman, that Gunn wants Pattinson to be the DCU Batman, that Reeves is the holdup, but there's a possibility that Gunn might go around that and use Pattinson for the DCU Batman. Are we going to ignore the comments just made by Matt Reeves? And the fact that Jeff Snyder quote tweeted the comments made by Reeves and said, play that out. Meaning, I mean, you'd have to read into it, right? You'd have to use your brain. He's saying that the idea of playing that out means he's going to do his thing and then it's over. And then whatever happens is not up to him. So I don't know, man. I get it. I get that this comment coming out there makes news. I get that this thing makes people say it's not there. This isn't going to happen. You're just going to ignore all the other smoke. You're just going to ignore all the other rumors. You're going to ignore Matt Reeves' comments. You're going to ignore Jeff Snyder's reporting. You're going to ignore John Roca's reporting. And you're just going to take Andy Muschietti at his word. That's your prerogative. Like, you can do that. I'm not going to do that. I think Muschietti is speaking from the perspective that was true when he was still making that movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. So, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think is more likely? That they're going to do two Batman, that Muschietti, the guy that made a movie in The Flash that was completely rejected by audiences, not only in the theaters, but on digital. You think it's more likely that that goes according to plan? How many of the other announced projects that Gunn said when he came out with that weird video on the lot, have been quietly canceled or pushed back. What the hell is Clayface? What are we doing with Clayface? You're just gonna ignore all of that? Muschietti said it, so it's law? Come on, man. So here's the thing. I've come to realize something recently. The level of nerdiness that we ascribe to over here is unique, and it sort of makes this content niche. Right? So, like, you can only fully appreciate some of the stuff we do here, some of the conversations we have, the insight that we give, if you're really plugged in. I might be speaking Greek to many other folks, but if you're really nerdy, you're really plugged in, you know what I'm saying. So, if you're a nerd venture, you got to be able to look through these things, take in the context, and have a better perspective on what's going on. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing my job. Am I not doing my job? Come on, man. Holy. It's my fault? Yeah. Yeah. Kalen says, Pattinson doesn't make sense. How would you explain Robin? If you hire an A-list actor for the DCU fans, it'll be interesting to see Gunn's iteration. So it makes sense if you do a time jump. Meaning, the epic crime saga that Matt is doing, that would happen, let's say, 6 to 10 years before Superman. That's it. Explanation done. How do you explain Robin 6 to 10 years later? A lot has changed. A lot has happened. Right? Doesn't that make sense? Ethang G says, I thought your job was to sway us into Warhammer. That's true. That's my real job. That's my real job. Yes. Let's see here, John. What did you say? Yep, I think Zaslav wants one Batman. Zaslav relayed that to Gunn. Gunn is deciding whether to do a new one with Andy or do Reeves. Reeves caught wind and is vying for his stuff. So is Andy. It's all power. Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I think that probably makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Why can't it just be like 5 years? It happened in 1 year. It can be 5 years. That's fine. I'm not, I don't really care that much. It could be 5. It could be 4. It could be one really crazy year. Like the sequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy all takes place within 2 year span. Isn't that wild? A lot of stuff happened in that 2 years, man. Like, the death of Star Wars and whatnot. What about Penguin in the Batman DCU verse? Yeah, no, I mean, that could be a thing too. Parker Thwips says, get that Pattinson out of my face. What? I mean, look, I tend to agree, except for the fact that he said he's going to start lifting weights. He said he's going to start lifting heavy weights. So if you start lifting heavy weights, I like you more. Especially if you're Batman. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? I know it was a bit of a controversial stream. Tried to break it down from a nuanced perspective and also just try to explain what I think's going on there, right? Jeff has his report. Shine has her report. They seem to conflict. There's ways they could both work. So I'm trying to help you out. Trying to do my job. Brain weights? I mean, yeah, brain weights, man. Robin has to be old enough to be able to fight adults. Yeah, I mean, do you know about Damian Wayne? Because, like, Damian Wayne is, like, I believe he's 12 when he's first introduced. He's trained with the League of Assassins for many years. He's a brutal warrior and a murderer. He can take out most adults. The only person that beats him, I think, is Bruce, and then also Dick. Dick Grayson beats him in a fight, but he gets bloody. He gets real bloody. Josh, one more thought. Okay, hit me. Damian is a killer. Yes, he is. That is true. Yeah, so we need a serious time jump. So Pattinson doesn't really work. I don't think you need a serious time jump, but sure, you can have a serious time jump if you need to. If Roca is correct, he might have said this just to bait Gunn to correct him. That is possible, yeah. That is possible. Is he done talking about Warhammer? I mean, I was about to start it up again. What's going on with the Deathstroke and Bane movie? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Absolute Batman #4 is out today. Sick. I got to catch up on my comics, bro. I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind on my comics. I got to catch up on my comics. If the whole Infinity Saga is so different from the comics, why would changing T'Challa's father prohibit you from connecting with T'Challa from the comics? Wait, let me read that again. If the whole Infinity Saga is so different from comics, it's not so different from comics. I think what you're saying is Civil War is not like Civil War. Infinity War is not like the Infinity Saga. I don't think it's so dissimilar from comics. One of the things that's very similar is the characters themselves. Maybe they're a little depowered or powered up, depending. But ultimately, like, what they are from comics is on full display, especially in Phase 1. Those Phase 1 origin films, those are all Stan Lee's stories. Like, straight up. So I reject this idea that, like, it's so different that differences from the comic shouldn't impede you. Does that make sense? I will say, like, I could grant you that it won't be as much of a barrier to entry for normie fans. I think a lot of normie fans won't have those same issues. But I don't just, like, kind of think T'Challa is cool. I love that character. I love that character. You know, it's kind of like what they were just saying earlier. Somebody brought up Drizzt Do'Urden. Super fun, cool character from Dungeons and Dragons, right? So, like, if Drizzt Do'Urden was introduced in a DC or a D&D movie, and then the actor died, and then the studios decided nobody could ever play Drizzt Do'Urden again, we're gonna just have him die in the movies. But wait, no, the fans seem to want Drizzt back. Drizzt had a son named Drizzt Jr. And now we're going to age him up via magic. So you've got your Drizzt Do'Urden, but it's not really Drizzt Do'Urden. Do you see what I mean? Like, if you just take it out of, like, T'Challa, it seems really weird regardless of the character, in my opinion. Josh, did you see what the Brave and the Bold director said about Robert Pattinson? I did. We just went over that. I mean, you could rewind the stream a little bit. You know? I knew nothing about Lord of the Rings except its existence when Fellowship came out, but it let everyone in. Studios got to do the same thing. Yeah, it has to be accessible. For sure. For sure. I think they're going to do the Nick Cage kick-ass approach. Can't wait to see Pattinson interacting with an entire Bat family. Richardson or Brolin works. Brolin's too short. I'm sorry. Brolin's too short. And Richardson is great. I would love Richardson as the Batman. The only problem is, like, he'd be the most fucking jacked, the biggest dude at the table of, I mean, he's like absolute Batman. You know? But hey, that could work. I think it would be fun. Any updates on Spider Noir? Nothing. Nothing that's out there. No. Isn't Pattinson short? No. Pattinson's like 6 foot or something like that. And I think Brolin's literally like 5'8", isn't he? Let's look this up. Let's look this up. Am I wrong about Josh Brolin? Is he not short? How tall is Josh Brolin? Oh, he's 5'10". Okay, that's better. That's better. That's not terrible. How tall is Robert Pattinson? 6 feet. So you could maybe make that work with Brolin, actually. Here's, you know what else I'm kind of interested in now that we're doing this? How tall is, who's a supernatural guy? Why am I blanking on this dude's name here? I love this guy. Played Soldier Boy. Chat, help me out. Who am I talking about? Jensen Ackles. Yeah, how tall is he? Oh, he's 6'1"? Wow, that's kind of interesting. He doesn't seem like he's that tall. Jensen Ackles. Maybe it's because the Sam was so tall. That's kind of wild. Interesting. What a world. You're 5'6"? I am 6 feet tall. 6'1", 6'2" on a good day, you know? Jared Padalecki. Josh, you don't seem that jacked either, but you are. Yeah, I wear big shirts. You know what I'm saying? I wear big shirts. I wear XLs, 2XLs. Because I like to hide it. You know what I mean? I don't want you to know when you approach me that I could rip you to pieces. You know, I wear the glasses to be less intimidating. You know, because I'm all about love, baby. I'm all about love. You look like you're 5'8". Yeah. Jensen is already voicing Batman in the animated versions. That's true. I think he did the one with the Red Hood. No, didn't he play Red Hood himself? Yo. Yeah, I like Jensen. I think he's good. Short shaming? No, I'm not short shaming anybody. Like, for instance, there are a lot of roles that I think short people would really excel at. Like the dwarfs from Snow White, Tyrion Lannister, Dr. Evil's little dude, Odd Job from James Bond. Yeah, you know, like dwarves from Lord of the Rings. Like I'm not hating, you know. Lantern leaks, just a crummy crumb, anything? Sure. So I'm thinking about doing a whole video on this. There's actually another guy that's doing videos on each individual episode. And they're good. Like, they're good leaks. And, you know, kind of fun. I felt like maybe I would just let you guys, like, link them. I'll link them in the video either way, right? But, so I think the show's going to take place in a town called Hope Springs, I believe. And I think it's in Indiana or Iowa. I forget. And Jon Stewart is a new Green Lantern. And Hal Jordan is not Green Lantern. And the whole show, according to these leaks, starts because a Silver Age comic book character is murdered in this small town, and Jon Stewart goes to investigate. It just so happens that Hal Jordan is there as well, has a relationship with the detective, comes to help, doesn't have a ring, but he's obviously a more experienced Green Lantern, and he's fucking Hal Jordan. So even in the first episode, there are some moments where Jon Stewart's ring is placed on Hal Jordan, and Hal Jordan shows some skills. And so it's, according to these leaks, you're going to realize that Jon Stewart, the person that had the ring before him, was Hal Jordan. And Hal Jordan's going to be there kind of like as a more grizzled person that's no longer a Green Lantern, but can help this young amateur Green Lantern figure some stuff out. There's some speculation, this isn't exactly in the leaks, but there's some speculation that maybe Hal already was Parallax. There's speculation that Necron could be being teased. Yeah, that's about all I'll say. Why don't Hal have a ring? Probably because he was Parallax and they won't let him do that anymore. Yeah. This seems to be Watchmen with extra steps. Wonder if they do Doomsday Clock, considering how big Watchmen still are. There definitely feels like some Watchmen vibes in what I've seen for the Lantern show so far. But man, yeah, like they're if those are real, they're cooking. Like that's cool. And I like some of these ideas. Yeah. He might be Spectre at this point. I mean, it's possible, but I doubt it, just given the context of some of the other leaks. Yeah. I bought my very first DC comic a few days ago, and it was the Green Lantern. Oh, that's sick. Which one did you get? I love the Green Lantern stories, man. I always liked the Green Lantern. Green Lanterns are tight. Ah, shit. Mr. Falcon says, I spent 7 hours watching Warhammer videos yesterday, and I'm hooked, man. Get that weak-ass Star Wars out of here. It's time for Warhammer era to begin. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. W's in chat. Hell yeah. W's in chat for Mr. Falcon. That's what I'm talking about. Get that Star Wars out of my face. It's time for Warhammer, baby. Who's Parallax? Parallax is an entity that is the embodiment of fear from the emotional spectrum, which is an aspect of reality that comes from the source wall that fits with the actual emotions that beings within the universe feel. Did I get that right? Trev, double check me. Parallax is cool, man. You know, I used to play HeroClix quite a bit, and one of the big events they did in HeroClix was we did a like Blackest Night, Brightest Day thing, and they had all the entities. So they had like Ion is the green one. They had Parallax is the yellow one, and you could attach the entity to one of your figures. Oh my God, they were busted, bro. It was like this super broken game mechanic, and I loved it. I loved it. Yes. The Corpse one, forgot the subtitle, but it was the first issue. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, the Butcher. Yeah. HeroClix are tight. They are tight. I think, you know, I have a sort of a long-range goal where, like, if the Den of Nerds pops off the way I think it will in the next 3 to 5 years, if we get Unity out there and it's like this big thing and it gets like development deals and people love Unity, if things go my way, I actually want to buy the company that makes HeroClix. That would be like a long range goal for me. I would buy that whole company and I would make HeroClix great again. If I could, you know. Which would be fun. Okay, anyways, there's not too much other stuff I want to talk about today. I really wanted to focus on the Black Panther stuff. I want to write a video about this Black Panther stuff. I'm hoping more stuff comes out. Some other insiders chiming in, some clarification or whatever, and then maybe we'll do a whole video about it. So I do have to kind of get out of here in a little bit. I got to get my hair cut, etc., etc. But there are just a couple other stories that we could touch on very briefly here, okay? So these are both coming from Daniel RPK. The first one is Daniel says here, the script for Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 is currently still being rewritten. The original script was scrapped, included Scorpion and Shocker. So I don't know, man. Is this still, like, is this really a story? Didn't we just talk about it, like, last week or the week before that the script is being reworked? Didn't Tom Holland literally say that the script was being reworked? Like, I don't know. I guess it's still being reworked. And I guess that's news. Okay. And then the other one, Avengers Doomsday has been locked, but they are still currently writing the script. The script will be done by March. So what he's saying is the ideas, the sequences, a lot of stuff that they want to do in the film is locked, but the script itself is being tweaked, and it won't be done, or it will be done, rather, by March. So that's really exciting. I would expect with both of these stories, the only reason I'm bringing them up is that as these become real and as we get closer to these things being finalized, we're going to get more leaks, more rumors, more information. So I expect a lot of clarity and some leaks and rumors and stuff for Spider-Man 4 and for Doomsday. I also, like, I'm a little, like, what's this deal with, like, Scorpion and Shocker? I never even heard anybody talking about that. Like, you know what I mean? It's just weird. Like, that. These are one of those scoops that you could throw out and, like, nobody could ever prove you wrong. Like, an original script that was scrapped that you'll never see included these characters that you wouldn't expect. Like, you know, like, that just, I don't know. That doesn't really feel like news to me. And the Doomsday thing, I think the most important thing is that it's locked as far as ideas. And they're still tweaking that script. So I guess some slight updates there for you. What do you think, chat? What do you think? Ooh, some Unity HeroClix. Now you're talking. That sounds cool. Yeah. We need Josh to get the Sue Storm Malice skin on Rivals. I'm just excited to see the cosplays. You know, like, it's one thing to stare at those pixels. It's another thing to stare at different pixels that are showing a human cosplayer. So I'm excited for that. You think Spider-Man 4 makes way more sense as a prequel to Doomsday? Well, Trev, you're just wrong, brother. Like, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, but you're wrong. The cosplays. You're a genius. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Yeah. Shocker was dealt with in Homecoming. They could get another Shocker. Yeah, I know. They could get another one. Josh said, stop gooning to cartoons. Hey, look. It's a free country. And Canada and Greenland. For now, it's free. So, you know, goon while you can. I guess TikTok's probably going to stick around, so that'll help some of you gooners. I just think for me personally, it's a little bit more interesting to have an actual cosplayer there. That's all I'm saying. I doubt I'm wrong. Good for you. Confidence is great. I think everyone should be confident. I'd geek the F out if Blake Lively was announced for Lady Deadpool movie. Oh, really? She was literally Lady Deadpool in the Deadpool Wolverine movie. I think she probably didn't act in it. She probably just did the voice, but yeah. Let's not get political, okay? We don't want to get banned like Colbert. When's the next rival stream? I want to do a rival stream, man. It's just like, dude, I'm so busy. I got so much going on. You guys probably don't believe me. You think probably as soon as I'm done here, I'm going into Sue Storm's pixelated ass or something. I don't know. It's like crazy. I don't know exactly what your perception is of what I do, but I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm doing things. I'm making moves. Holy. Can we do a deep dive on the Lantern Corps? Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I would love to do that. Have a good day, brother. Yeah, that's a good idea. And he has to get his hair cut. Exactly. Exactamundo. Bring the Cool Bear guy back. I only timed him out for 24 hours. So he'll be back tomorrow. And he'll probably be real pissed. But I mean, like Cool Bear, he's kind of wild. You know, you got to kind of keep this guy in check. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude's like, I'm like, no politics. This dude's like, I've got a front row seat to the inauguration. Well, shut the fuck up about it. How about that? Den about to become a mansion. Wait, what? Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about the Lantern Corps. Oh, that's cool. Dude, the Lantern Corps is great. The Lantern Corps is great. Let's time out like 600 people and see how tomorrow goes. What's tomorrow? Like the 9th? Like, what am I missing something? I feel like maybe I don't know. I feel like we go into different internets sometimes, guys. You know, I feel like you guys go into a certain internet, and I'm over here in like a much more peaceful, more chill version of the internet that's filled with Warhammer. And so it's just, I don't know. I think sometimes our perspectives are just a little different. You know, it's a little different. Is done talking about Warhammer? Just checked back in. C-Dub, we just started, baby. You know, to his credit, I think Comics Things is another crazy-ass mofo that often probably needs timed out and whatnot. But to his credit, Comics Things told me yesterday on the Discord, he said, maybe if you did a whole stream dedicated to Warhammer, I'd learn about it and actually get into it. In fact, I'll ask you guys, should I do a whole stream dedicated to Warhammer? Throw a 1 into the chat if you think I should. Yeah. Cool Bear is missing out on MegaCon for the inauguration. Jesus. Hey, Josh, recently got the Eisenhorn Omnibus. You think that's a fine place to start? I think so, actually. Yeah, I think it'll be good. Should I get Valdor and start there instead? You know what's funny? So I always recommend Valdor. I asked Matt, Nerd of the Rings, about this. He said Valdor was a little too... Like, he didn't have enough of a base to, like, get into Valdor. And I can understand that. Like, if you don't understand the time, the custodians, the palace, what was going on the planet, like, I almost feel like there needed to be, like, a better prologue into that. Where they were like, look, the Emperor literally just showed himself to humanity. He just ended up taking over all of Earth. We have a united Earth. He's building a palace in the Himalayan mountains, which everybody thought was crazy. And there's this person from a noble house that is investigating the custodian guard. That's the basis of, like, the beginning of Valdor, the book. But if you don't know that, and you don't know about, like, the Primarchs and Malcador and all this, dude, Warhammer is so tough. Warhammer is tough. You know what I was thinking about yesterday? I had a cool conversation with my wife about this. Because so the video I did on the Warhammer channel, it's like basic lore of Warhammer explained. you know, it's like up over 600K views. It's like headed towards 700K. And you know, when I look at that video, not just the views, but I look at the comments and stuff like that. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze. It's, well, it's frankly very different than a lot of comments I get on my other channels. And there was this one comment in particular where this guy said, like, hey, I've been a Warhammer fan for like 40 years. And I've always looked for a way to simply explain what it is to like my friends, family, and etc. And your video is the thing I've been looking for so long. You know, you win it over it all without getting bogged down. The pacing's incredible. You use like connections to Star Wars and Marvel and stuff to like help people make sense of it. This is a perfect video, right? And I was like, damn, like that makes me feel good. As a fan of the franchise, if this video, because if it keeps serving its purpose, which I think it will, this video will probably hit 1 million views by the end of this year. Maybe multiples of millions of views. And I realized, I was like, dude, if this thing really takes off, because like, for instance, the more Warhammer stuff that happens, the more that video becomes relevant. So like when the Cavill stuff pops off, that video becomes relevant again. That video could end up doing millions and millions and millions of views, and it could serve this really cool purpose and provide really unique value to millions of people that are trying to like get into Warhammer, right? And I was like, man, to play just a small role in helping to bring people into the hobby is so cool. So cool. And I was like, dude, that feels really good. Because obviously, like, all jokes aside, I love Warhammer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very passionate about it. And to be able to take that passion and to do something in a way that I think is kind of unique to how I did it. Like, I think part of the reason why it's resonating so well is like, man, we were putting everything into those videos. The pacing's incredible. The way it's explained is like really accessible. And it just feels good. Like it feels good to be able to have done something like that and do something that will hopefully provide value for a ton of people for years. That's cool, man. You know, it's different than what a lot of what I'm doing with like Star Wars, Marvel, etc. Where we get in here every day, we break down the news, I give you my take. It's on like a 48, 72-hour cycle, and then it's irrelevant. A lot of the stuff that we do, it feels derivative. It feels a little exploitative. It doesn't feel like I'm digging in, doing something I love, providing incredible value for people. And so to have that and have done that, it just makes me want to do better, Senator. You know, with all my content, with what I could do with YouTube in general, with what I could do with the platform, all the experience that I have, I want to do better. I want to make better videos. I want to make stuff I'm proud of. I want to make stuff that provides true value for people. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like I feel good about it, you know? Thanks for clarifying. We couldn't tell you loved Warhammer. I'm glad you know now. Okay, let's catch up on a couple chats here. Jaren says, hope the new baby is doing well. I just heard her crying, or maybe that was Liam. Random question to derail Warhammer. If Lucasfilm forced you to do a movie that includes Rey, what would you do? I'd either make her go dark side, or I'd age her up, have her be a flawed Jedi that kind of walked away from her responsibilities for a long, long time, and has now, in her later years, realized that was a mistake, and is now trying to train Jedi. Rossi says, can you briefly go over the powers of each different Lantern Corps? The powers are similar, actually. They can all create constructs. So it's a construct, and it taps into the emotion of a human being and creates the construct. So like if you're really angry, you use a red lantern ring, Your constructs are going to be very powerful the more angry you are. If you are a Green Lantern, your will, and you're like, you have to not be afraid. Like, that creates the construct. The Indigo Tribe is slightly different. I think they still create constructs. They still have rings and whatnot, but they actually kind of predate almost all of the core. If, as far as I understand it, I think even Aubin Sur was actually a member of the Indigo Tribe, like before he became a Green Lantern. I'm a little fuzzy on those details there. If you are a Sinestro Corp wearer, or you use the yellow rings, you know, fear and your own fear, but also like how you want to perpetuate fear onto other people, that like creates your really strong constructs and whatnot. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. And she should say, it's time for the Jedi to end. No! More like, I thought it was time for the Jedi to end, but it turns out I was wrong. And now we must begin again. I am not all the Jedi or a Skywalker. I'm Rey Nobody. Man, epic as shit. Epic as shit. Kyle Rayner, Ryan Reynolds is back. Would you like it or not? I think it would work. Kyle, to me, is a little bit more subdued and emotional. He's like a little bit more introverted. So I don't think Ryan is a good pick for him. But yeah, I would like Kyle. I think Kyle's great. I like when Kyle becomes Ion. There's these great panels of like Superman sitting on his couch in a t-shirt and blue jeans. And Lois like comes up and he's watching on the TV Kyle Rayner as Ion. And Lois says some like cheeky ass shit like, wow, you must be super bored now that the world doesn't need you. And it was like, he's wild and he's like, get the fuck out of here, Lois. It's cool. It's a cool comic. Okay, everybody. Hey, I appreciate you. I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for having this conversation with me. I wanted to just do my part in, number one, breaking down what the actual news is. I think that's a big part of what I try to do. I try to be as accurate as possible, bring you guys the different perspectives, what could be going on here. You have Jeff's story, you have Shine's story. We'll see what happens. Maybe we get some clarification. I also wanted to speak to the issue itself. I think it's a nuanced issue. It's an emotional issue. I think a lot of people come into this thinking they know everything, thinking that their perspective is unilaterally the right perspective. Don't love that. So I wanted to bring some of the nuance into the conversation. I hope you understand and appreciate it. Talked a little bit about the scripts, talked a little bit about Warhammer. Good things are coming. I had a dream last night that I was swimming with the dolphins. And then I gained wings and I flew into the air, which meant that good things are coming. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave once I started talking about Warhammer? Did everybody leave once I started talking about Warhammer? What the fuck? Don't you guys know about Warhammer? Joseph, are you Cool Bear? You're Cool Bear, aren't you? You got a second account just to come in here and be like, hey, unban that Cool Bear guy. Holy. Anyway. Another happy landing. It was a good story. I'm excited about T'Challa. I don't love the child thing. I'm not gonna hold on to it too much. I'm not gonna be too much of a butthole about it. I just felt like it was the perfect opportunity to explain why. Why? At the end of the day, I still feel like Marvel is making better decisions, and I still feel like this is somewhat of an olive branch. I think you got to remember, at one time they wanted Shuri to just take over, and they did adjust. They are trying. So I'm just trying to put, different perspectives out there, explain why it's such a big deal. So, much love to you all, even you, Joseph. I mean, Cool Bear. I mean, random nerd venture. I hate the discourse around it. Wait, what? Warhammer? The Discord around what? I get it. I mean, it's tough. I mean, anytime you get something like that, different people are going to come at it from different perspectives, be emotional about it, have some less nuanced takes. There's no reward for nuance on the internet. You know what I mean? That's not how that shit works. So it can probably be frustrating when we go over these certain topics, but I feel like I owe it to you guys to try to get deep on it, try to do the best job I can, while also expressing my opinions about it. At the end of the day, I'm a fan too, man. And I want what I want as a fan, and I feel like it's okay to use the platform to put that out there a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I totally get it. I'm trying to do the best I can. I don't always get it right. I try to listen to you guys too. We'll figure it out. Okay? So look forward to a full-on Warhammer stream tomorrow. Videos coming at you soon. Remember to open up your third eye and wash out your stinky butt. Oh!